Did you just get a new puppy or bring a new dog into your home? And are you feeling overwhelmed by the amount of collars that are on the market today? I'm Justin with Total Dog, and today I'll be going over 5 of the collars on the market and the pros and cons of each. The first piece of equipment we're going to talk about today is the harness. The pros of the harness is that it's the least invasive tool that we can put on our dogs. It is very safe to put this on any dog of any size, but especially small dogs. Small dogs' necks easily can be injured by any other tool. Small jerks of a leash on a collar that sits on a dog's neck can be very injuring to them. Cons of this collar, however, are that this broad chest piece here encourages many large dogs to pull even harder. This piece of the harness sits on the dog's chest and it actually encourages them to pull more. Think of a sled dog. I call this the sled dog theory. It's natural for when a dog wants to feel something pull this way, that they want to pull even harder the opposite way. That terminology is actually called opposition reflex. What I suggest to do with a harness is actually graduate them to this tool. I would start with one of the other tools we're going to talk about here, and then once the dog is being respectful on leash, I would graduate them to the harness. The second piece of equipment we're going to talk about is the flat collar. Pros of the flat collar are that they come in all different shapes and sizes, so you can really be stylish and have a design for your dog. They're also easily adjusted, that way it fits your dog nice and snug. Cool thing about these collars is they also have a spot for the dog tags and is really easy to attach a dog's leash to. Cons of this tool, however, are that it does not necessarily teach the dog how to walk politely. It again encourages the dog to pull. Until the dog learns how to walk politely, I would not use this collar to teach them how to walk. This tool also can hurt their neck. The dog's trachea can actually be collapsed if the dog pulls hard enough. Lastly, the actual plastic clip here on strong dogs, sometimes they can break. The next tool we'll talk about is the choke chain. The choke chain is actually probably one of the least common tools utilized these days, but I still feel it's important that we talk about it. The pros of this is that it's real easy to slide over your dog's head, so you don't really have to worry about fitting it the right way. Another pro of this is that it's really easy to use. When you hook the leash to the end here, this tool pretty much does all of the work all on its own. When the dog pulls, it chokes the dog. Cons of this, however, is that it's really easy to damage the dog's neck if in the wrong hands. If you pull too hard or if you lift the dog off the ground with this tool, you can very easily injure the dog. The next piece of equipment we'll be talking about is the prong collar. I'd love to hear from you. Drop me a comment down below. Have you seen one of these before? Does it intimidate you? I'm really interested to hear from you. Pros of the prong collar is that it mimics the mom in the pack of wolves or in a litter of puppies. When moms correct their pups, they use their mouth around their neck. And if you look at this collar, that's what the prongs simulate. When the dog makes a mistake, it is really easy to correct their behavior because it evenly distributes the pressure around their neck and teaches them that they're not allowed to do those things. Cons, however, if these are in the wrong hands, you easily could injure the dog's neck. These prongs are not designed to hold the dog off the ground, and in some cases people do that and they cause some serious damage to the dog. Here at Total Dog, we use the prong collar for the majority of our dogs. These really quickly teach the dog what they can and cannot do. Another con of the prong collar is that it's really hard to fit for some people. Dexterity can be a problem because these prongs, when you put it on the dog, you actually have to unsnap it like this and then be able to squeeze it back together and put it around the dog's neck. This tool is not intended to be loose around the dog's neck because it will not do the intended purpose. Instead, it should fit real snug on the dog's neck up behind its ears. That way when it pulls or you give a quick jerk of the leash, it evenly distributes the pressure around the dog's neck. The next piece of equipment we'll be talking about is a remote collar, or some people call it the shock collar. Pros of the remote collar are that you can reach out to a dog from an extended distance. This one that we utilize from eCollar Technology actually has a half-mile range. I can quickly teach a dog to be off-leash reliable in a very quick amount of time. This tool is also very easy to adjust and find the right setting for your dog. This goes from 0 to 100. 100 being the strongest correction, 0 being the least invasive correction. When we utilize this tool, usually we use it as a very invasive training method. We want to find the setting that just interrupts the dog's negative behavior versus correcting it. Now, the reason why these go up to 100 is because sometimes dogs like police dogs need that type of correction. When we send them out on a suspect and they're biting somebody, if we tell them to let go, most times they're in fight mode and they will not let go. So that's why we have these that go up to 100. Now, for pet dogs and for pet training, usually most dogs work on a setting of 20 or below. Flurry here actually works at an 8. If you were to put this remote collar on your hand and hit the button at 8, you probably would not feel anything. Another cool thing about the remote collar is that all you're doing once it's set to the right number is you're just hitting a button. So you don't have to actually have a leash and be giving corrections and have to worry about actually having some sort of mobility. Another cool thing about this collar is that it's waterproof. So if you like to go to the lake or to the beach, you can put it on your dog, but you still can have plenty of control over them. The next thing that I'll add is this tool is really good to catch your dog making mistakes outside. Usually if your dog makes a mistake outside, you open the door and the dog naturally stops. However, we can use this tool by spying on them, looking out your window usually, and as soon as you see your dog dig or jump, try to jump over the fence, or chew on your plants or your drip system, we can hit the button, interrupt that behavior, and eventually that behavior will be extinct. Cons of this collar is that there's way too many on the market. It's very hard for you to know which one is good and which one is bad. You can buy some of these on Amazon for $20 to $40, and they truly will shock your dog. If you spend a little bit more money and purchase something like the e-collar technology or dog trick collars, which are going to be closer to $200 to $300, you're actually going to have a collar that does the job that you purchased it for. We don't want to buy the cheap ones that actually shock our dogs. Other cons of this is, in the wrong hands, you can do damage to the dog. If your young child gets a hold of this and accidentally turns up the dial and hits the button because they see you do it, now your dog is going to be set back into training. Another con of using the remote collar is that it actually has some weight to it. So when you put this on your dog, they get what's called collar wise. A dog that's collar wise knows that when this tool is on with the added weight on their neck, that they have to listen. But as soon as you take it off, sometimes the dog is smart enough to know that you don't have a way to control them. So be careful with that. So as you can see, there's very many options for you when it comes to training your dog. Today we talked about 5 of my favorite tools and the pros and cons of each. Now, I don't use one tool on every dog. What I like to do is have many tools in my toolbox when it comes to training dogs, because I don't know if today the dog I'm training is going to need this or if they're going to need the flat collar. So be open-minded when it comes to training your dog and picking a training tool that will work best for you and your dog. To recap, the 5 collars we went over today are the harness, the flat collar, the choke chain, prong collar, and lastly, the remote collar. It's important to remember what works on one dog might not work on the next dog. So find the tool that works best for you and stick with that. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe below for more videos like this. I'm Justin with Total Dog. Thanks for watching. Train hard.